I think the acquisition was very complementary in nature. The first reason that we acquired this business was that it gave us an install base overnight. It doubled the install base that we have in terms of our services portfolio. The second is that there were a few sectors where GE was not the number one player, and with the acquisition of Alstom, we get to the number one position. Like for example, we were number one in gas, whereas Alstom wasn't. So the combination is complementary. On coal, Alstom is a name to reckon with, which is a new addition to the GE portfolio. On hydro, we exited hydro some 6-7 years back, Elementary, and it gives us the ability to offer solutions from the GE family to our customers. So clients get more choice, and it also gives us the ability to invest in technology such that ultimately the cost of electricity is the lowest that we can offer to the industry. So that's why the Alstom acquisition makes so much sense. I wouldn't have the market share numbers precisely, but then in terms of expertise, as I mentioned, Alstom has a fantastic portfolio when it comes to coal. GE has a very interesting portfolio on onshore wind, so the combination of GE and Alstom, it expands our wind portfolio. GE did not play in the transmission and distribution part of the business significantly, whereas Alstom is again a market leader when it comes to T&D, which is now known as GE Grid. So again, the complementary nature of the businesses that we were in and the businesses that Alstom was put together, it gives us the ability to offer solutions to our customers across the spectrum of power generation. And GE was positioning its gas turbine solution, while we had the ability to offer a combined cycle power plant, but then our focus would gravitate more towards the gas turbine equipment per se, whereas Alstom has a very interesting high technology portfolio when it comes to something called the steam tail or the bottoming cycle. They have an HRSG manufacturing footprint in India, for example. They have a very good steam turbine portfolio. Alstom to me had the world's best steam turbine technology, which is now the GE steam turbine technology. So the expanded scope that we could offer to our customers when it came to a combined cycle power plant is now available with GE. Lastly, around the gas turbine powertrain, the electrical balance of plant, which again contributes to the overall performance cycle of the gas turbine. In the past we weren't a player with, but with Alstom Grid, our ability to add more scope, increase performance, improve performance, take more risk has increased again because we can offer the electrical balance of plant. Lastly, once you have this kind of scope at your disposal, and if the investment in technologies, especially digital, where we can map the entire power plant, increases our ability to forecast the performance of the power plant, which again helps in reducing the operation and maintenance cost of a power plant, which ultimately results in the lowest cost of electricity. So India has an installed base of 285 gigawatt, give or take, in which our base load is coal, which is 60-61% coal. Gas is a high single digit mix in our total installed base. Currently we have around 24 gigawatts of installed capacity of gas. Now that is at the IPP scale of gas. So that's the number that you would count when you look at the total installed base at an IPP scale of 280 to 85 gigawatt, in which 24 is gas. The other which doesn't get counted in this number is the installed base of gas turbines in continuous operating plants like refineries, petrochemical, fertilizer plants. The total installed base of gas turbines in India is around 250 gas turbines. Out of 250 gas turbines, the GE share of that is close to 215 gas turbines. So we have the lion's share when it comes to installed base. Majority of these gas turbines, in terms of number of units, are actually powering complexes like refineries, petrochemical complexes, fertilizer plants, pharmaceutical plants, offshore platforms, and so on. Gas allocation to that part of the gas turbine portfolio has not been impacted. What has been impacted is the IPP part of the installed base of gas turbine. But that was when gas was priced at $12 to $15. I remember it had touched around $16. Three things have changed in the last 18 to 24 months. The first is that the price of gas has dropped from a high $15 to somewhere between $6.5 to $7. So the price of regasified gas, net energy value at the burner tip is at $6.50. So that's the first point. The second is that the government of India, rightly so, has gone ahead and signed up for the COP21 norms. So as you know, our plan is to add 175 gigawatt. But what that power does is that it adds infirm power. You'll have to balance that with firm power. Now you have two options. One is either use hydro or gas. Hydro plants are long gestation projects. Gas can be done within 24 months. So with these three macro environment items falling in place in the last 18-24 months, I think there is a case for gas-based power generation to take off. In fact, interestingly, this morning, the Honorable Power Minister has mentioned in one of his Twitter feeds that he is importing gas to restart the capacity which has been stagnant. I think once that is out of the way, then you will see that for us to keep in step with our plans of adding renewable to make sure that we are COP21 compliant, the options that the country has is gas. And by the way, gas now becomes affordable because the price of gas has dropped to $6.50, which in other words translates to a cost of electricity of sub 5 rupees. So at 4 rupees and 50 paise with a decent return to the developer, gas power is available. Last year we did a major project for the government of Karnataka with a 400 megawatt power plant in the heart of Bangalore city. So you will see that there will be such opportunities which will come up. There's another trend which is emerging, which we should take notice of, is the amount of LNG capacity that we are currently constructing, the infrastructure for import of LNG. So we have an LNG terminal in Mundra, which is like 50% done, it's under construction. We have Dahej, which is expanding. We have Kochi, which is completed. We have Indian Oil setting up a terminal in Ennore, and I know that HPCL with SP have financially closed a 5 million ton LNG land-based terminal in the state of Gujarat. So each of these 5 million ton, it adds up to 25 million ton of infrastructure capacity coming into the country, and these plants will be ready in the next 3 to 4 years. So I think the ecosystem for us to operate our gas-based plants and build newer gas-based plants to address issues on environment and to balance the grid, because you're adding renewable, is going to be a very favorable environment for gas-based plants. Forecasting oil and gas price is a risky proposition. No one's got it right in the past. But I think with what's happened in the last 18 months in the oil markets, and oil dropping below $50, below $40, I think it touched a $30 mark. What it has done is that it has created an awareness of the amount of data that we need to forecast what will be the price of oil and gas. So today I think we have a better idea of the sources of oil and gas and the consumption of oil and gas. And if you draw the trend, you will find that the forecast in the futures market is that we are in a long cycle for a sub $50 price crude oil, and India benchmarks its gas to crude oil. So that's one trend. The other is that there are newer finds of natural gas across the globe which will change the total environment of how demand and supply is managed and will impact the pricing equation for the better for a country like India. Like for example, currently Qatar is the world's largest exporter of liquefied natural gas. So when you have such major finds of gas coming in, they say that globally we're in the golden age of gas. It's a clean fuel. The transportation costs with this kind of supply should come down. It's easy to handle, and there are other benefits of a gas-based plant, especially for a country like India. It uses less amount of land. Land is important for us. Secondly, which is more important probably, is water. It consumes 20% of the water as compared to a coal-based plant. Now listen, I'm not going to pitch coal versus gas because GE can do both, and we have a solution for a particular requirement, and we'll give the best technology solution for that requirement. But if you were to look at the constraints, and if water is a constraint, then gas. And lastly, I've mentioned this often now, environment. SOx, NOx, particulate matter, mercury, and carbon dioxide. When you compare a gas turbine based power plant versus other technologies, I think gas will stand out when it comes to these aspects. The moment you start pricing this, you'll find that, you know, the gas story is economically viable as well. So you have benefits and it's viable. And I think the government and the private sector will start taking notice. The only point that I've heard the minister talk about, and again, quite rightly so, is energy security. Is that we do not want to be dependent on sources of fuel for power generation outside of our country. So that's a topic that we'll have to address. CEA had issued a notification in 2012 that no gas-based plants in India up to 2016. One support that we will need from CEA is to evaluate that decision, what they had taken, because at that point in time the context was way different and things have changed. And again, I would be repeating if I say, COP21, renewable addition, price of gas, these things have changed. So in the light of the current background, they will do well to denotify that blanket, kind of broad brush ban that no gas-based plant till the year 2016. So that's one. If you ask me that what is that one thing,
yeah.
I think that's one thing that will be in the favor, not just for OEMs like GE, but it will benefit the country in terms of how we well manage our energy mix. CEA member on the panel, we had Mr. Girish Pradhan, who's so knowledgeable, and earlier I would get a point blank no. Now it's not that I'm getting emphatic yes, but people are listening, they are taking note, and I think we are in that direction where probably the dean of notification is down the corner. On a broader basis, whether it's gas or coal, I think the quality of our offtake agreements in terms of fuel as well as in terms of power offtake, those can be looked into, get fuel to be a total pass-through, and how we manage risk between the DISCOM and the generating company when it comes to the payment of the tariff. What kind of guarantees that we have to back the payment of the tariff are some aspects as an industry we should probably take a look at to make our projects more financially viable, bankable. They should attract international funding. That's something that there's always some scope for improvement.